So I made a poll on my Instagram, Naseba's Food. If you don't follow, then what in the world are you doing? So basically I asked between Hawaiian food or a dish from Mauritius. So the vote was for Mauritius. And then I asked, is it between biryani and chicken biryani? So let's start. So my 5 potatoes I peeled and I chopped in half. And they were like quite small or medium sized potatoes. So I'm going to put them in a bowl. Oh God, I'm so sorry. This is way too tempting not to do. I know, I'm a little bit on the crazy side, but that's just me. To the potatoes, I'm adding a teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of yellow food colouring. The one I have looks like this. I'm going to give this a mix. Now, I know I'm going to end up with like stained hands, but oh well. And I've got my oil heating up here, so it can be nice and hot. So in it goes to the hot oil. Now we don't want them to go super crispy. We just want it to like literally start to cook. Obviously the fact that we coloured them makes it hard to tell if it's really well done or not. So I'm just going to leave them in for a couple of minutes, because don't forget we're going to add them to the biryani, which will cook anyway, so it'll soften them. So whilst that's happening, I'm going to start peeling and chopping my onions. Okay, so out they go onto some kitchen paper to let them dry. Not dry, you know what I mean. Remove the excess oil. Oh look, despite all odds and extreme heat, they still come out smiling. And that's what I call Naseba's Food potatoes. Now I have my 6 onions, which I haven't finished chopping, and we're gonna thinly slice them as much as we can, and separate them, and then we're gonna use the same oil to fry them and make some crispy onions. Ready? And obviously you want to do this in batches. Bismillah. So that's the first batch done. Gonna put that on some kitchen paper and try and spread it out so it can stay crisp. Now I know frying onions is a little bit tedious, but they taste so good, mashallah, in the end result. So it is kind of really worth the effort that you put at the beginning. And you could really do this in advance before you plan to start making your meal, so that you don't have to take so long making your biryani. You could have done this beforehand, earlier on, and just had them ready. And whilst my onions are frying, I've got 4 eggs which I'm going to hard boil. So around 10 minutes of boiling and they should become perfect. So I've removed my boiled eggs now. I'm on my last batch of the fried onions, and now I have a 1/4 cup of water I've just boiled. Apparently I'm a grandma now. That's great. In this mug we're going to add a tablespoon of saffron and a 1/4 teaspoon of yellow food colouring, and we're going to mix that and then set it aside for when we're ready to use it. I really do feel like the hard part is actually over. All that frying at the beginning takes up time, it's a little bit tedious, but now it's actually really simple. And I could have started the recipe from here and just shown you my pre-fried stuff, but it's more accurate for you to know just how long you're going to take on something, to show the start point, and also for you to know how to fry that potato and colour it and all that stuff. So now we're going to get on to the really easy part, and that's actually making the biryani, and this is all we're going to start off with. Bunch of mint, so like a handful of coriander, 2 onions, 1 tomato and a chili. I'm going to half this quantity. Half I'm going to keep on the side and half I'm going to put into a blender, and the same goes for the mint. So half I'm going to put aside and half I'm going to blend it. Obviously I'm going to take the leaves out from the stalk. So half of the mint and half the coriander's in here, and the other half I've roughly chopped and put aside. I've chopped my onion, my tomato and my chili. So I just gave the mint and coriander a little blend just to make space for the rest of the stuff. So I'm going to put that in there and let's blend it all together. And I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons of water. Ta-da! Alhamdulillah, that's looking perfect, mashallah. So in a deep pot, which you'll be cooking your biryani in, we're going to add 1 cup of plain yogurt, which I measured out to be 10 tablespoons. So I've added the blended coriander and tomato and onion mixture, the one that we blended. And to that we're adding the chopped coriander and mint that we had reserved. And give that all a good mix. I'm then adding 6 cloves, 10 cardamoms. I've got a tablespoon of cinnamon powder, 1 3/4 tablespoon of salt, a tablespoon of cumin seeds, which I will add in. Goodbye. And then I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of the biryani mix. Now there was Laziza and there was Shan, and I looked it up, researched, and found that apparently Laziza is actually a little bit tastier. I don't know if you think differently, let me know. This is the first time I ever used a spice mix like this, but I don't know, I've always thought it was a little bit like cheating, but apparently it's absolutely normal. So we're going to try it for this recipe, inshallah. So I'm adding 3 tablespoons of this biryani Laziza mix. And if you don't fancy using it, you could always make it from all the ingredients that are shown on the box. So, you know, why not? So I'm going to give this all a good mix. We are going to supplement this with more spices, not just depending on the biryani spice. So it will be extra flavour, inshallah. Ginger garlic paste, which I made using, sorry, I had a brain block, which I've just made using 5 garlics and 2-inch ginger, and I minced it together. So let's mix this up. And in goes 2 tablespoons of honey. I'm sure people who usually have biryanis are thinking, what? Well, that's the Mauritian style chicken biryani, you see. There are different types of biryanis, and this one is going to be interesting to try, inshallah. So give that a mix. Our final lot of spices are funky looking 2 tablespoons of cumin, 2 tablespoons of coriander powder, and 2 tablespoons of garam masala. And in it goes. I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, and I'm a bit happy with myself that I bought this kind of drinking bottle, but instead I've put vegetable oil in here. And don't worry, I've warned my family so no one sits and drinks from this and thinking it's water. It just makes it easier to pour out like a 1/4 cup using this instead of a big fat bottle of vegetable oil. So we're adding a 1/4 cup into our mixture. And then I've got my chicken. I got the butcher to take off the skin, but I felt like cutting it myself. So what I'm going to do is cut it into 8 pieces, and then we're going to put that into the pot. And then we're literally ready to let it marinate and absorb all those flavours we've added to that pot. And as a side note, you might wonder why I'm so obsessed with smiles. Well, I do strongly believe that if you have smiling ingredients that go into your meal comes out smiling and happy, and it makes the people who eat it at peace, and maybe they will smile too. So that's the theory behind it. I know there's a bit of a madness in it, but oh well. Sunnah smile all the way. So in goes my chicken pieces. I'm going to give that all a very, 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 very good mix. So do you previously remember the grandma mix of saffron and yellow food colouring? We're going to add a tablespoon of that. Whoops. Well, I'm going to add it eventually without the camera. A tablespoon of that into our mixture, as well as a handful of our fried onions and our fried potatoes. Now I'm going to give it all a good mix. I'm going to check and show you what happens. So it's all been mixed, and you need to assess whether to how much water to add. I've only added 1 tablespoon because I feel like this is more than enough. You could add more. You could add up to a whole cup of water, but don't overdo it. I mean, you can still see some bits of my chicken, which is good. And now we're going to cover it and leave it to marinate for around an hour. I know it'll take a lot of patience, but we're going to try and stick to at least an hour of marination. Okay, go on, 45 minutes at least, but let's see how it goes. So it's been half an hour since the chicken's been marinating, so now it's a good time to soak. So I've run the rice under water until you get a clear, as you can see, it's now clear water. And to this we're going to add 1 tablespoon of cinnamon powder, 4 cloves, 3 green cardamoms. I'm just going to gently mix the cinnamon and all that stuff with the water, and we're going to leave this to soak for around 15 minutes. We'll be done, inshallah. So the rice has been soaking for 15 minutes. I've now filled up a big pot with like half filled it up with hot water that I've boiled, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of salt to it, and I'm going to give this a mix. And to that, I'm going to add my very appetizing looking rice with the water in it into the pot. Bismillah. So there should be plenty of water so that the rice is very comfortable when it's cooking. So I'm going to let this come to a boil, and then literally I'm going to time it, give it a few minutes, and I don't want it to fully cook. I want it to at least be a half cook or maximum 3/4 cook. So I'm going to let this come to a boil first, and then we're going to time it for a few minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to peel my boiled eggs that we've kept aside, because we're going to now need them to assemble our chicken curry. So now it's bubbling away. I'm going to time it 2 to 3 minutes and then check up on it to make sure it's 3/4 done. It's been 2 minutes on a boil and it's 3/4 done, so now I'm going to drain it and we'll be ready to assemble. So that's my drained rice, and this is the chicken that's been sitting marinating. I'm going to give this a mix. I've added my peeled boiled eggs, and I'm going to add 1/3 of my rice mixture. So that's 1/3 of the rice. I'm going to add 1/3 of my remaining fried onions. And we're going to repeat this process. So another 1/3 layer of rice with the fried onions, and then rice, fried onions, and then let me show you what happens next. And then we're going to add a teaspoon of ghee on 4 sides of the pot and then 1 in the middle. And then I'm going to top it with the remaining saffron water. To now cover it with foil and let it cook over medium heat, low. I'm going to leave it for medium heat for the first 15 minutes and then bring it down to low for another 15 minutes, and then we'll see how that goes. Bismillah. So it's been 35 minutes. I've now switched off the heat and I'm going to leave it covered for another 20 minutes just to rest, and then we'll be ready to serve. So it's got time to rest for 20 minutes. So bismillah, I'm going to now remove the foil. Now we're going to spoon it onto a serving dish. And that is the final Mauritian chicken biryani. MashaAllah, I can't wait to dig in, to be honest. Recipe will go up soon, and I hope you guys try it and enjoy it.